melodic heavy metal. Playing it heavier. Louder. Raunchier. Faster. This is the Signals of Intuition.
There's brand new Ramos right there, featuring guitar player Josh Ramos. That is from his new solo album, My Many Sides. And the track there features singer Tony Mills, who also sang for TNT, Shy, Siam, and many other melodic hard rock bands. That was his final performance before he sadly passed back in September. Josh was able to get Tony for what is perhaps his last recorded performance. The new album comes out on August 7th on Frontier Records. And tonight on the show, we have the guitar player of that band, Mr. Josh Ramos, who also has played guitar in the band The Storm, which featured several members of Journey. He's also played in Two Fires, Hardline, Le Mans, and many other bands through the years. So let's get Josh on the line right now.
Hello?
Hey, Josh, how's it going? It's Brandon calling from the Signals of Intuition.
Hello, Brandon. How you doing?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Windsor, Ontario, right next to Detroit.
Okay, gotcha. Good, man.
So when I do these, I always like to start at the beginning of you as a musician and then work our way up to the new album. Mm-hmm. So starting from the beginning, where did you grow up and how did you get started in music?
I grew up in Chicago and just, band in school. My brother was in the Army and he turned me on to Jimi Hendrix, and I loved the guitar. I knew that I wanted to do that for the rest of my life, and I knew that I wanted to do that because it would allow me to travel doing something that I love to do, meeting people, getting paid for it, and just seeing the world, basically.
So you hear, like you said, Jimi Hendrix and some other albums. Was there like one or two in particular that really made, so for you it was Hendrix, that you said, I want to do this for a living?
Right.
Hearing that.
Yeah, I mean, it was, the first album, and then Electric Ladyland, and then all the bootleg albums that I would go to the store and get. And, some kids want to grow up to be a fireman, a policeman, or something like that, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do. So it was really exciting for me to want to be a guitar player and learn more and see people playing guitar that I could learn from. And it was just a learning process, a fun learning process that I enjoyed, and I wanted to get better and better and better. You look up to certain guitar players and you take things from each guitar player, listening to what they're doing and then going and practicing it and then, getting better at it, then going to the next level and seeing somebody else do something and doing the same thing. You're constantly getting better, and it's keeping the instrument interesting for you because you're learning all the time.
Right. Are you entirely self-taught? Did you go to school for it, or even, did you go to GIT or even just private lessons? What's your trajectory like on guitar?
Well, I just started playing. I never took any lessons. Again, I saw what guitar players were doing. I would go and do it. I don't really read music. Well, I don't read music. I know chords and stuff, and okay, you're at, A and E and all that, but I can't read music, and I just play by my ear. And, if you're playing in a certain chord, I know how to get around it. But I never went to GIT like any of those other guys did, because I don't really play like that. I'm more of a feeling guitar player, more of a heart guitar player, like Gary Moore, and guitar players like Neil Sean, and guitars that just are mostly street players. They just played the blues and they felt it and they let their fingers and heart do the talking. I never really learned scales or, what guitar players learn at GIT.
Sure. Well, it's funny. I mean, as a fellow guitar player, I'm very much in the same boat where I can read a little bit, if I sit down and kind of go, okay, yep, that's a note and that's a note. But I mean, if you were to put Bach in front of me, it's not going to happen. Give me the tab and let me hear it and I'll make my way through it, so.
Right. And, nothing is bad about that either. About guitar players that go to GIT, because there's a lot of great ones. Jesus, Paul Gilbert. I mean, he was one of them. And, it's like, I wish I could do the stuff that guy does. But again, there's something to be said about players that are street players, that feel the guitar, that feel the notes, that play the blues, that aren't so much into the gymnastics of guitar. They feel it and they play it.
Right. So, jumping ahead just a little bit, the first band that I'm aware of you being in, I'm sure you, did you kind of do, high school bands and that kind of thing and build your way up? Because the first thing I'm aware of is you doing Le Mans in the early 80s. How do you go from sort of learning guitar to building up the band Le Mans?
You just practice at home all the time. You practice with your favorite albums, your favorite guitar players. And again, I was always into Gary Moore, Neil Schon, guitar players like that. And my sound developed in that way. And then a friend of mine introduced me to this young guitar player. He was he was younger than us. He was 14 years old, 15. Derek Frigo, the other guitar player in Le Mans, and he was doing Eddie Van Halen stuff already. And I was like, wow. And he also was enthralled by me too. So we just fit really good together because I played the Les Pauls and he played the Charvel Whammy, like Eddie. So I just knew these other guys and we formed the band. Actually, I was playing with the other guys before, and then I brought in Derek. And so it evolved to Le Mans. But we went through different drummers. At one time, Randy Castillo from Ozzy's band was in our band too.
Was that still in Chicago when he was in the band?
Yes. He was in another band. He was from Albuquerque, New Mexico. And he came through town with a band, I think they were called Code Blue or something like that. And I remember seeing him, and he was just so cool on drums. And they stayed in Chicago for a while. He lived there for a while. And I started talking to him, and I asked him if he would just be interested in playing with us and putting some stuff down on tape and all that. And he said, yeah, sure. And we would go pick him up. And he was almost like an American Indian. He was just really cool. We would go eat tacos, and it was really funny. He taught Derek how to stick up his hair with Aquanet and a towel. But anyway, yeah, so, he went on to Autograph. He joined the band at Autograph, and then from there he went to Lita Ford, and then from Lita Ford he went to Ozzy. But we kept in touch all that time, and there was this drummer, Kenny, who was a drummer in Le Mans, actually, but he used to come and watch us rehearse with Randy, and they became really good friends. And Kenny had a style kind of like Randy, so yeah, he joined the band after Randy left, and we continued. And then I was looking at Guitar Player magazine, and I saw this article on Mike Varney, how he was putting an album of the hottest guitar players in the United States, and I thought we could be that because Derek had a really cool Eddie Van Halen style, and I had a Gary Moore, Neil Schon style. So I got a hold of him. Actually, they gave me his number. I called him up. He said, well, you guys go to a studio in Chicago, record a song, send it to me, and then, if I like it, I'll put it on the U.S. Metal second album. And we did that, and he liked it. He put it on the album, and then he said if we were interested in doing a whole album. And of course, we jumped at the chance, but we would have to fly to San Francisco and do it. So we did. And then he got us hooked up with the singer, Peter Marino, which was the singer in Le Mans. Anyway, so yeah, that's how it happened. He brought in Peter. We recorded that first Le Mans CD. then after we were done, we went back home to Chicago, the drummer, Derek, and me, and then Mike said, hey, if you guys want to do this, if you love this, you want to be rock stars and stuff, you got to move out here. So I did. Derek, Kenny, me, and our light man, Timmy, that looked like Billy Idol. We all drove out here, and that's how it happened.
That's hilarious. Now, tell me about the second record, because you guys got eventually signed to Columbia, right, for the second album?
Well, I was out of the band by then because it's a long story, but basically some of the guys in the band were doing drugs, and I wasn't doing drugs. I just wanted to get there to rehearsal and rehearse. And some of the members, half of the time they were in the bathroom doing blow, and I didn't like that. I said, guys, we're here to rehearse. Let's just play. And so I became basically the black sheep of the band. And I guess Peter, being now the lead singer of the band, even though I started the band with this bass player, our bass player at the time, Bones, we called him, Richard Burns, I felt like this was my band. Oh, and by that time, Richard, our bass player on the Lamont album, he didn't want to move to San Francisco. So we ended up getting another bass player, Brett Bloomfield, who was playing with Mickey Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
The Mickey Thomas band, yeah. And he was really crazy and stuff. And so he joined the band. So I basically got kicked out of my own band. And they hired this really nice guy. He was a friend of mine, too, Johnny Johnson, who sang, really good and played keyboards and rhythm guitar. So I'm not on that CD. But, yeah, they got signed to Columbia, but it didn't really do that good anyway, so I can't really say that I, lost out on anything. But some of those songs on there, most of those songs on there, we were already playing. And I did the demos for a lot of those songs. But then when the album was recorded, then obviously Derek and Johnny Johnson ended up, doing all the guitars. Yeah, but it was a really hurtful period for me because, I felt like this was my band, and for me to get kicked out of my own band for something as stupid as drugs, I felt really hurt. But, I licked my wounds and I kept going, and then good things happened. I mean, I eventually joined the Storm with 3 members of Journey. So,
yeah. So that's kind of the next thing I was going to ask. So after Le Mans, you formed Elan, correct? Or Elan, or however you pronounce it.
Elan, yeah.
Yeah. Did you guys ever record any material? I know, I've read you guys had a pretty good reputation in the Bay Area, and I've heard of the band, but I haven't been able to find any material. If you guys have anything.
Well, Elan was David Elan. That was his band, and he had been in California for a long time, and he worked with several, he put several bands together, and he got a lot of money backing him up in studios. But then after I was out of Le Mans, I kind of struggled a little bit, and then he played me some material, and I said, wow, man, that sounds great. I would love. So I joined the band, and we played a lot. Yeah, we were managed by Bill Graham, who, the Fillmore. He had the Fillmore in New York and San Francisco. His company we were signed to. And, yes, they got us a lot of gigs. We opened up for Eddie Money. We opened up for Joan Jett, just a lot of bands. And we recorded a lot of stuff trying to get a deal, but we came so close all the time, but never really got that deal. But we were pretty popular around here. I mean, we would pack all the bars, and girls would come and see us, and, it was pretty cool. Yeah, it was a good time.
So you mentioned being a big Neil Schon fan, and I know eventually you wound up playing his guitars. When did you get to know Neil? Was it in San Fran? Was he a fan of Le Mans or Elan?
Well, the thing was that I didn't live in the town, in the city of San Francisco. I lived across the Golden Gate Bridge in a county called Marin County. And in Marin County, there's a town called San Rafael. And that's where Neil lived, Carlos Santana. I mean, it's beautiful. This place has history with musicians, Janis Joplin. I mean, everybody. No, he didn't really see me with Ramos. He saw me, I think, with Elon, and he would come to see me play, and which I thought was, amazing, because here's my guitar, one of my guitar heroes coming to see me play. And so I eventually worked with him. He asked me if I could demonstrate his line of guitars, Sean guitars, at NAMM, which is the big, convention that they have in Anaheim. At that time, they had it in Chicago, though, around the 80s. It used to be in Chicago. So I flew back there with him, and I demonstrated his guitars and all that. We became really good friends. I mean, obviously, he respected me as a guitarist, and I obviously respected him. I used to go see him with Journey. I mean, I was one of the people out of the audience, just like, wow. And here I am working with him. So I worked with him. I was in the studio while they were auditioning drummers for Raised on Radio. They were going on tour for Raised on Radio, and I was there. It was a really, really cool, exciting time for me to be there at Journey rehearsal. It's really funny when I look back.
So is that how then, like, because of you being around the rehearsals, is that how you got involved with, I think it was The View was before The Storm, correct? And you were a part of that as well?
Yes. Kevin was recording with Ross Valerie and just a lot of other Prairie Prince, who was the first drummer in Journey, actually, before Ainsley Dunbar. And they had a band called The View. And so Kevin asked me if I wanted to come in and do some guitar solos and some rhythms on the album that they were recording. And I said yes, along with Marty Friedman. And then there's another guitar player. I can't remember his name. He played with Huey Lewis and Seth Burns, really good guitar player. So there's 3 guitarists in there. And so that's how basically I got into the Storm. It wasn't through Neil. It was through Kevin, because Kevin went to some Giants baseball games here with Greg Raleigh, and they started talking. And then Greg decided that maybe he would want to start recording some music. And then they were looking for a guitar player to record some songs on there. And then Kevin suggested me. And then I came and met Greg, and then I laid the guitars down for some demos, which they gave to Herbie Herbert, the manager, and Herbie loved it. And then at that same time, Bo Hill from Interscope Records, it was a brand new record company, and Bo had done Rat, Warren, Stevie Stevens, and he was like vice president of the company, and he was looking for a new band, a rock band, to sign to the label. And so happened that Herbie gave him our tape, and he loved it, and he signed it.
How was it working with Bo as a producer? Was he more of like the let's get involved with the songwriting and all the rest of it, or was he more of kind of like an engineer and sort of an overseer of the project?
Well, he was kind of like an overseer of the project. They had Jimmy, oh God, what was his last name? He was the engineer, really cool guy. And Bo was just, he knew how to get sounds because of working with, and the album right before us was Europe.
Mm-hmm.
After Out of This World, they had the other one.
Oh, Prisoners. Prisoners of Paradise.
Yes, exactly. And so he came and, he was a great producer. I mean, coming from all those bands and knowing exactly what those guitar players in those bands. And I mean, he knew how to record guitar really good. So yeah, it was great working with Bo. And we recorded it at Skywalker Ranch, George Lucas, Star Wars. I mean, it was amazing.
How was that studio? Because I was going to ask you about that. I've heard it was like very advanced for the time. Is that true?
Yeah. It was a big, huge room, and the control room looked like the Starship Enterprise, and the room had these baffles that come out of the walls to simulate any other recording studio in the world. Let's say you started recording something in Switzerland, and so to get that same sound, they would basically alter the sound with these baffles that came out of the wall. Yeah, it was amazing, man. It was great.
That's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I never really knew. I've heard about it as kind of like recording for like films and all that kind of thing. But I never knew it was an audio production thing until I was doing the research the other night for the band. And I'm like, wait a second, this was done at Skywalker? That is so cool.
Yeah, I mean, Michael Jackson ended up rehearsing for one of his tours there at Skywalker. Then they do all these movie scores there at Skywalker. Yeah, it's just a lot of history in that place.
So tell me about touring for the first album. I know you guys, well, you toured with a lot of Canadian guys, right? Like Tom Cochrane and Bryan Adams and some other guys. Tell me about some of those tours and what you remember from those days.
Well, we were, after our CD was released, basically, then Herbie said, well, let's get a tour happening. And so what happened was that back in the 80s, Journey was headlining, and they gave Bryan Adams an opening slot on the tour. So now the shoe's on the other foot, where Bryan gave us a chance. Like Journey gave him a chance, Bryan gave us a chance because we had members of Journey in the band. So he gave us a chance to go on the road with him and tour. I remember that first show in Cincinnati, Ohio, and it was around March. And I just remember looking out from backstage, the curtains. I walked on stage, but, you know, the curtains, and I kind of like peeled them back, and I could see all the people sitting down on the thing, and I was like, oh my God, I was nervous. But then I just talked to myself, and I go, you know, Josh, this is what you've been working your whole life for. This is what you've been dreaming in your head, is this moment now. So I went then to the dressing room, and I remember Ross had a shot of tequila for me, and he goes, let's go, man. So I drank the shot of tequila, and then as soon as I hit the stage, the first chord that I hit, I heard it so big and so wonderful, and from that moment on, I wasn't nervous anymore. I just said, yeah, here I am.
That's hilarious. Jumping ahead to 1993, you guys worked with Bob Marlette on the second album. He did pre-production on the first one as well, didn't he?
Yes, right.
So tell me about working with him, and how does he differ as a producer as opposed to Beau Hill?
Well, I mean, they both work great together. On the second CD, we had another, oh God, what was his name? Clive something, who was the engineer for Mutt Lange. He's the one that produced our second Storm album.
Oh, really? So was Bob just the engineer?
No, Bob wasn't really the engineer. Bob helped, you know, record some of the keyboards, helped Greg with production on the keyboard part, some of the guitar. I played all the guitars, but there was things that I think I had a problem with one. Well, no, this was on the first CD. It's a long time ago. No, there was a song on the second CD, Eye of the Storm, that he showed me how to play it because it was a really cool part, and I guess I wasn't playing it right or something. But he was great. I mean, he did all of the keyboard parts and, you know, with Greg, and he had a great ear. He's a great producer, too. But he didn't fully produce our second CD. That was, God, what was his name? He used to work with the Mutt Lange.
Right. I'm going to have to go grab the CD and look it up later. I honestly don't. Yeah, because I was looking through it and I'm like, oh, okay, so Bob was involved with both. That's very cool. So do you guys do like sort of pre-production with Bob?
Yes, we do. The guy's name was Nigel Green.
That's it. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that sounds familiar.
Right. Nigel Green. Yeah, of course. We do pre-production. That way, you know, you just get in there, you do what you got to do. You don't spend any time. You don't spend any extra money. So we're basically prepared as far as the drum tones, the groove of the song, what we're all going to play, because we recorded at first like a demo, and then I take it home and then I work on it too, so that by the time we get to the studio, whether we're recording drums or bass or guitar, we're all pretty prepared for the recording, our part.
Right. So I know the album ended up coming out a couple years after you guys cut it, because you did it in 93, and I think it came out in 95, was it, through Music for Nations?
Yes, it came out twice, actually. It came out of a company in Seattle, and then it came out at a record company in England called Nations, something Nations, right?
Yeah, Music for Nations, I think it is.
Yes, Music for Nations, exactly. Well, what happened was we recorded the CD, but at the time that we recorded the CD, grunge, alternative music, rap was starting to get big in America. So Interscope did pay for us to record the CD, but they eventually just gave it to us and said, just go find another record company to release it. Because I think they dropped the ball. They were going to other music, which was rap and alternative, grunge, all that. So, yeah, we just took it to another record company and to see if they could release it, which is sad because that was a great CD. Really great. Along the lines, a little different than the first one, but it was great. It had
It fell victim to a lot of bands at the time where if it came out in 1990, it had the potential to be huge. I mean, like you say, a lot of great songs on the record. It just missed the mark by probably about a year and a half, you know?
Right.
So the band, I guess, eventually, you guys dissolved, probably partly because of that, the album not coming out. And I mean, I know Journey soon reformed as well. So did some of the guys, basically, the album didn't do anything and the rest of the guys just kind of sort of gradually parted from the band?
Right. With the music change, then, I mean, where can you play? It's like all the bands that were associated with, 80s, even early 90s, even Kiss, they were, thrown to the side. Because, in America, it's like a horse with blinders on. They can only look forward. And in a perfect world, you would have all these different genres of music with each other, right? I mean, you would have country, you would have grunge, you would have rap. I mean, because there's an audience for every kind of music. Loved melodic rock. Listening to Eddie Money, listening to Huey Lewis, Journey, Van Halen, especially in the summertime when you're driving down the road. They gave you a really good feeling. And, there was a lot of people, a lot of fans that still love that music and should have coexisted with grunge and alternative. But, America is just, if it's the next big thing, they put all the eggs against it, and then they just ignore everything else. So that's what happened to us. And, and then Journey reformed, and then Ross Valerie and Steve Smith went back to that. And so, it just lost steam. And, we did whatever kind of recording CDs with Kevin under The View. And then after that, I did my solo CD and then Hardline. And
right. Well, I mean, how I initially discovered you was the band Two Fires. I don't know, 2000 or so when all that started. Was that Kevin's thing, or was that sort of you and Kevin getting together after the storm and forming something new?
Yeah, it was Kevin's idea, basically with Serafino, because Serafino had just really gotten his record company going, Frontiers Records, and he is a main fan of melodic rock, Journey, and so he wanted Kevin to do a CD. I mean, it would be great to bring me, Kevin and I playing together, sort of like the Neil and Steve Perry. Yeah, but that was Kevin's idea to bring me in to Two Fires.
So that album, that was Kevin. I'm guessing, did he have a lot of those? Did he make a lot of those phone calls and stuff? Because I know, on the first album, for example, I mean, you guys had Kenny Aronoff on drums and Jim Peterick of Survivor on keys and that kind of thing. So it was very much like a Serafino project, those couple albums then, eh? Or did you guys actually play as a band as well?
No. The only time that it was at the Gods Fest, I think in 2002, maybe. Maybe that was in London when we were playing in 2002, I think. Or maybe it was 2000. And Jim Peterick came and joined us, me and Kevin, and Kelly Kagi from Night Ranger was on drums, and Gary Moon, the bass player that also did Night Ranger, Yeah, we had a great thing, and we did just one show at the Godfest in Manchester, England. Oh, and then I did something else with Kevin and Jim. I think we went to Belgium when Kevin did Voices of Rock with Jimmy Jameson and a lot of other singers. Maybe Jim did that. I can't remember. Jim's a great guy. I went to his house and saw all his guitars, and yeah, and I've known of him since Survivor and the band that he was in before that. God, in the 70s. I'm your vehicle, baby. I'll take you anywhere you want to go. Yeah, they did that song then. Anyway, yeah, we did that song in London too. It was great. And we went to Liverpool. We all took a ride to Liverpool. And Jim Peterick looks a little like John Lennon. And he had these round glasses on like John Lennon used to wear. And people thought that maybe, whoa, look at this guy. He looks like John Lennon. Yeah, Jim.
Oh, that's funny. All right. So after Two Fires, you joined Hardline. How did you initially come to join the band? Because you played a little bit on the 2 album, correct? I think weren't you brought in to sort of salvage the guitar solos and so forth on that album?
I was brought in to basically finish the CD and add the guitar solos on there because they had a guitar player at first, Joey Tafoya, which is a great guitar player, but I think he wanted 6 weeks to do solos on the CD, and Serafino was already waiting for the CD. Then the Japanese were also waiting to get their bonus track on it. But anyway, it was too long, and so they brought me in, and I finished the CD. I did all the solos like in 3 or 4 days, and we did a show at Godfest again in Bradford, England, I think we did. And then I recorded the 3rd CD, but there was a problem where it sat on the shelf, and then finally, I guess Johnny and Serafino were arguing about it, but then I guess got resolved, and eventually I finished it again. I finished the solos on there, and that was the 3rd one. And then on the 4th one, that's a different story with the 4th one. We didn't even know, Michael and I, our keyboard player, didn't even know there was a 4th Hardline CD out. Johnny didn't call us. He didn't tell us that, hey guys, there's a CD coming out. It's called Hardline, but, I found out from Michael. But then I was involved in the 5th one. And then it just got too much. And the keyboard player producer was writing all the songs, and and I don't like to work like that. I like collaboration, and I like to collaborate with other musicians, which is what we were supposed to do, and it didn't work out that way. So when I was out of it, I decided to put this solo CD together and work with different singers.
Right. Human Nature, just to back up for a second. So that album, did you just sort of cut guitar solos on it again, or did you get to have any say in the writing at all? Or you were kind of cut out until the end?
Well, the plan was for Alessandro, Johnny, and me to get together and all write together, bring in our ideas. But it didn't happen, and then Alessandro thought that he would just do the whole CD. So he ended up writing everything and writing the words for everything. It might as well have been his solo CD. I didn't like it, but, I was in the band, so I figured, well, let me do it. And so I recorded the guitars and all the guitars on there. And then we did shows in Europe, but I wasn't really happy. And him and Johnny decided that I guess I wasn't needed. And so basically I was out of the band. There's more to that story that I don't want to get into now, but it was not a good breakup. So,
for sure.
Then I wanted to write my own songs and just collaborate with different singers. That's where my Many Sides came from, was with that, from that.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So just before we lead into that, another thing I want to talk about to kind of take us into the new album, My Many Sides, is you did China Blue, an album that Tony Mills sang on. How did you become involved with that album? Like, were you brought in again just to do guitar solos, or were you sort of involved with the writing and other things involved with that record?
No, I came in to do guitars because Eric Ragno, the keyboard player, who also was with me on Hugo Ramos, he brought me in to that project. And I went to LA and cut the guitars, cut the solos, never met any of the band members, never met Tony, even though I talked to him on the phone. Yeah, that was another fast, just go in there and do guitars and get out.
And then 6 months later, you got a CD, China Blue, and you're like, oh, that's what this was.
Right. No, there's a lot of great songs on that. And Scott Tony was a great singer, and that album was really good. I wanted to try to maybe do something more with him, but it wasn't until the last part of his life that I was able to get him on the song on my CD. It's Only Human.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's funny. My own band, we had Tony sing backing on a song, and at the time he was with TNT, and he was so incredibly busy that he literally had like an 18-hour window where he's like, I'm going to be home for this chunk of time. I need the song now. And we're like in the studio, half recorded the song. We go, oh crap, so like we just rushed to get it to him. So yeah, what a absolute sweetheart of a guy too. I mean, very, very sad that he passed. So when you called him to do the album, was he already sick with cancer at the time or not yet?
You mean when I approached him to do the song on my CD?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, he was already sick, and but he was just laying down a lot of ideas, and I called him. Well, I emailed him first, and then he gave me his number. I was in Germany at my girlfriend's house, and I called him up, and I said, hey, listen, man, I want you to do this song. I think I sent him 2 songs, and he picked this one. Or no, this song that he sung, It's Only Human, actually, I sent that song without the vocals or the words, because Tony wrote the words and the melody. But I sent the rhythms to Robin McCauley. I know Robin from Michael at the show that they had in Las Vegas called Rock Vault. Robin sings in that show, and so does Michael, my keyboard player from Hardline, also plays in that show. So I asked him, and I sent him the song, and then he started working on it. But then I guess, he was doing this other CD with Rhett Beach called Black Swan, and I guess he didn't have the time or something. So I ended up sending that same song to Tony without melody, without words, just the music, and Tony wrote the words and the melody for it.
And, on the albums, he had Tony and Joe Retta sang about 4 or 5 of the songs. Do you know Joe? Was that your idea to get him to sing the songs? Like, was he going to sing the whole album, or did you just want him to take sort of a handful?
No, I didn't know Joe, but I was looking for a singer for my CD, and Fabrizio brought him in, and he sent me a video when Joe sang with Trans-Siberian Orchestra. He was one of the singers, and I saw his performance, and I was like, wow, this guy is amazing. I want to use him. And then so I called him, and we talked on the phone, and I drove to LA and I met him, but then he was in this band Heaven and Earth, so they were supposed to be recording a CD, and Stuart, the guitar player, didn't think that was a good idea for him to be doing my CD, recording my CD and their CD. So Joe felt bad that, we had talked about it so much, and he goes, listen, I'll do 3 or 4 songs on it, and you'll just have to get other singers to finish the CD, which is basically what happened, and it worked out because I was able to work with a lot of different singers.
Mm-hmm. So how do you track down? I mean, obviously, Frontiers explains probably a number of the singers who sang on your album, that sort of connection. But how do you get in touch with the likes of, Tony Harnell and Harry Hess and Eric Martin and all the others who sang on the album?
Well, I came up with singers, and so did Fabrizio. Fabrizio was friends with Danny Vaughan, Tony Hart. Even though I know Tony, we did some shows together in Europe, but he had a personal connection with Tony, so he brought him in. And then I brought in Eric Martin and Harry Hess, Terry Ilius I brought in too, and Tony Mills. And then he brought in Johnny Basara, Tony, and Danny. So I brought in 4, and he brought in 3, so that completed all the singers on the CD.
And then, like at the same time, you've also got, of course, Eric from China Blue and Michael. Like, did you sort of have Eric in mind, or do you just figure, well, let's add another name to the CD. Let's see what Eric can add to, some of the songs.
No, I was vacationing in the south of France with my girlfriend, and we were at a swimming pool, and we were talking about the CD, and she goes, she had heard, because I played her some of the demos and some of the stuff that we had recorded, and she said that, she goes, you're a guitar player, and all that you're really doing is just playing a solo on each song. Why don't you do like a piece like you did in China Blue? And I said, well, you're right. And so I called Fabrizio and I said, listen, I want to do a piece where it just is an instrumental with guitars. And so I talked to Eric and I said, listen, do you have anything that you could send me that so we went back and forth, and finally he had these chords on keyboards and these pads, and then I wrote the melody on top of that. So it was a collaboration between Eric and me. And yeah, I think it's called Ceremony on the CD.
Yeah, what is your recording process like? Like, do you do all your own engineering and that kind of thing, or do you work like with another engineer? What's that process like?
Yeah, I work with whoever is producing the CD, whether it's Bo Hill or like with Hardline it was Alessandro. Not with the third one, the LRS. Alessandro produced, and the 5th Hardline. That's where I've worked with Alessandro. And then Fabrizio with Hugo Ramos and this CD. They mic my amp and they set it up, and then I just start laying down rhythms, and after that, solos.
Mm-hmm. And then what about gear? What are you playing these days, guitars and amps?
Well, I have Les Pauls, Epiphones, I have Strats. I have 2 guitars that my favorite guitar player, Alan Holdsworth, he played. Kiesel, which was Carvin, but then they discontinued Carvin and they went on with Kiesel. Mm-hmm. And Kiesel sent me a Holdsworth Fat Boy, which is amazing. And then I have one of the Ibanez guitars that Holdsworth, in '87, when he started doing a lot of solo work, he had his signature Ibanez guitars with 1 pickup. And after that, he went to Charvel. But I think that's when he was working with Eddie Van Halen, because Eddie was like a big Holdsworth. That was his guitar hero, was Alan Holdsworth. And so he got him hooked up with Charvel. But at one time, he also had almost the same guitar, but with Ibanez. And I have that. And I have a Marshall, and I have a 5150, and I have several amps, PV blues amp, because for my blues work. But yeah, that's what I use. That's what I have now, are Les Pauls and Epiphones and Strats, and then those 2 guitars.
Do you have a few that wind up on every album, or do you kind of do like, sort of song by song sort of dictates the guitar?
Yeah, well, actually with the Storm and the second Storm CD, I still have the guitar that I worked on, which is a Washburn, actually. Oh, that's my other guitar. A Washburn, the same model that Nuno Betancourt used, his signature model, the N4.
Oh, nice.
Because I'm from Chicago, and Washburn is from Chicago. And so when I was in the Storm, they endorsed me, and they sent me, like, I think it was 3 or 4 N4s, and I love the necks on those guitars. I love those guitars. And they have EMG pickups on there, which is, they endorse me too, and they're here like 40 minutes away from me, EMG. So those are the only other two guitars that I use are the Washburn N4s. And then for the clean stuff, I record it with the Strats. But with the rhythms and the solos, I love the Washburn. And I did some stuff on the Les Paul too. It just depends on what sound I want for that song.
For the heavies, are you playing a 5150 or are you doing, like you said, it was a Marshall? Is that the other one you're using for the more distorted tone?
Yeah, for this CD, I used between a Marshall, it was a 50-watt Marshall, and a Marshall AVT. It's solid state, but with a 2 preamp that I used in the studio too. Yeah, hey, if you got a distortion pedal, and I mean, a Marshall will work. It's just about with anything. You can clean it up, you can distort it, and you can do solos on it, and yeah.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, you drop, the right overdrive or distortion or even both of them in front of almost anything with some kind of distortion. Usually you can pick it up quite a bit, eh?
Right, exactly.
So obviously with COVID right now, it's probably hard to make this call, but do you have any plans to take your solo songs on the road?
Yeah, that was the idea behind recording, is that I would go to Europe and perform these songs. Obviously not with all of the singers. I had asked Joe when the CD comes out and I am able to perform in Europe, would he come and sing all the songs? And he said yes. But then we got hit with this pandemic and it changed everybody, so I have no plans. And there are no plans to go to Europe. So yeah.
Sort of a could be, but should this show happen, would you just do an entire set of the new album, or would you kind of do maybe a Storm song, and sort of other things throughout your career, as well as some new material?
Well, yeah, I mean, it all depends on the length of a show. Yeah, I would probably do the 4 songs that Joe sang on, because it's a matter of who's available, but since Joe sings most of the songs, and I wanted him for the CD at first, I would think that he would be the singer to join me on this, hopefully a tour. But I would love to be able to perform also some of my other songs on my other CDs. I don't know about too much of the Storm stuff. I would probably try to do some off of my first solo CD. And I co-wrote a lot of the third Hardline CD too. A lot of those songs I co-wrote, and Johnny wrote the words, but I should be able to do some of those songs if I wanted to too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially if you wrote them. It's sort of your song regardless of what band name it's under, right?
Right. Or co-wrote them too.
So besides, so you've got the new album, My Many Sides. Do you have plans for maybe another solo album, or is there maybe a band you're looking to do, or what's next for you? Do you have any plans for that?
Yeah, I would like to try and do another CD like this one using the different singers, but probably with more of a little different approach. That's not fair to say either, because a song is a song, and if it's something I like, I go for it. Not with any plans of how it's going to sound or how is this, what am I going to do on this CD now? I still love great songs, and if I like them, I will record them. But let's just see how what CD goes. I know the production on it is different than what people have heard me on. So let's just see what happens. But I like the idea of using different singers too.
Do you think next time you would write more for their voice? Do you think you'd write something that sounds, I don't know, maybe like TNT for Tony, or, whatever the case is? Or would you again, just sort of write the songs you want and then just find a singer to sing it kind of thing?
Right, because that way I am bringing them towards me, instead of me writing something that they're used to doing, because they also want to be pulled from what they're used to doing. They want to do something different. And so a lot of the performances on this CD was songs that were written already that brought the singers in, which is a great thing because it takes them a little bit out of their comfort zone and allows them to do something different, which is always great, right? For a musician to do something that challenges you. I think that's the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very true. I mean, I know, having talked with Magnus Carlsen, who does a lot with Tony Harnell as well, like he mentioned that too. Tony loves to do things like that, where it's not just the things he's kind of known for, and to sort of step outside of that completely and sing something different.
Right. Exactly.
So, and at the same time, I mean, as a guitar player as well, I mean, that's totally, something that's interesting to do instead of just sticking to sort of your genre or sound and going, okay, let's, mix it up and go for something completely different.
Right.
As in some ways, I think you kind of have done with this album, at least, again, what you're sort of known for, if you will.
Right.
Well,
it's a little different than what I'm known for is with the production of the CD and the songs. I'm also stepping a little bit out of my comfort zone too, even though it's called My Many Sides and I want to be able to, record different sides of my playing. It also puts me at a not so comfortable side because I'm not used to recording bluesy things or even soulful. Even though it's the side of my playing, I'm usually known for the rock side that I have. But I love it. I mean, I love showing different sides. And I think when I do a different CD, I think it'll also show different sides of my playing, along with maybe different singers that I haven't used on this CD.
Mm-hmm. Any in mind that might be on your bucket list?
Well, I already asked. What's his name? Damn it! I hate when I go through Jessica Soto.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I was at a show of his for his band, Sons of Apollo, at the Fillmore here in San Francisco, and I talked to him after the show, and I said, hey, maybe you could do something on my new. He goes, yeah, absolutely. So, and then Robin McCauley was supposed to be on this CD, but he wasn't able to, so maybe I can get him for the next one.
That'd be great. I mean, the thing is, too, that guy's voice is still absolutely phenomenal.
Right.
Listening to the Black Swan stuff, and it's like, wow, this guy has not lost a step at all. It's unbelievable.
I know.
That guy's voice.
We'll see.
Well, Josh, I want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this. I think it was fantastic, and it was really cool to get a lot of these stories from The Storm and, just a lot of the stuff that you've done through the years. So I want to thank you for that and, being very giving of your time for the interview.
Oh, thank you so much, man. It was a pleasure for me to do this. Definitely.
I appreciate that. And I got to say, I'm really, really digging on the new album. I hate it because I don't know what anything's called because I just kind of put it on in the background and listen. Mm-hmm. So I hear all these different singers and I'm like, oh yeah, that's the Tony Harnell song and, that kind of thing. Right. But no, I'm really, really enjoying the new album. And I think it was very cool that you were able to get Tony for, what is probably his final performance. So I think that was very cool as well.
Yeah, that was heartfelt, definitely. And it's a great song and it sounds great on it. But yeah, Brandon, thank you so much for having me. And I just want to wish all the fans out there just stay safe. Let's try to get over this whole thing and try to get back to live music and having fun again.
Mm-hmm. All right. Thanks again, Josh. Much appreciated. I'll catch you later.
Definitely, Brandon. Thank you so much, buddy. Take care.
All right. Take it easy. Yeah.
Okay.